Hi guys, we left Apollonia, short drive to Berat. Now behind us is Berat Castle, which we're about to go into and have a look around. It's got lots of old churches and mosques and various things. This could be my last ever video because the walk up here is incredibly steep. It's only 9 o'clock. It's already probably hitting a good 80 degrees and it's meant to go over 90 by 12. So although I love the heat, this ain't the weather for a sick old man. So if I never see you again, I hope you've enjoyed the channel. If not, there'll be a few mosques and more things to look at. So let's have a wander. The castle is inhabited. It's 10 hectares according to the bloke we're talking to down at the cafe. So it's a fair old size. And there are some very large buildings, impressively large buildings in it. And this one has got a bit missing from its overhang, which shows the construction, which is wood slats and plasterwork. So essentially wattle and daub, as they used to do in the Middle Ages. I'll give you a few idea of prices here. They're 140 lek to the pound. So you can have moussaka with potatoes for 400 lek, which is less than £3. Grilled veg for £2 odd. Lamb, baked lamb with yoghurt for what's 500? £4.50 say. So very, very cheap. The drinks we just had, we had 2 half-litre bottles of water to cool ourselves down, and they were 60 pence each. So tucked away in the corner is the remains of this tower, behind which was a mosque, which there is a little debate about the age according to the information, but probably around 1397. So there are some men here working on it, some scaffolding, and obviously trying to make sure it doesn't fall down. But there are further mosques as we wander around. The town's water supply was kept in this huge underground cistern. So presumably at the time it was being used, this would have all been covered ground level, and then you step down into the cistern. A mini version of the ones in Istanbul. Let's see if we can have a look through the window. Whoa! Oh, you'll never see this, guys. It's so dark. It is huge. It's still got water in it, and it's freezing. And something's squeaking away in here. Maybe bats, I don't know. Something's squeaking away. My God, it's enormous. It's like a cathedral. So the river down there, and the road in front of it, just along to the right, is where our camper stop is. So it gives you a rough idea of how high up we've come. Fabulous views down the valley. There are large numbers of wildflowers in Albania as well. The fragrance you get of them as you wander around places is incredible. All sorts of different stuff. And also the Albanians themselves clearly love their gardens, because in all the cafes, camper stops, all the rest of it, there have been little rose bits, and I'm not very good at identifying plants, but jasmine, roses, thyme. You can tell us a bit more, Elizabeth.
Yeah, vines.
Vines.
Apples. Lemon trees.
Yeah.
Crab apples.
Yeah. Cherries.
Cherries.
Yeah.
Loads of cherries. Fabulous cherries.
So it's a really colourful, fragrant. And tucked away in a corner, pointing out in the walls, is this old howitzer, which, looking at it, dates from probably pre-First World War, and it's from Pilsen, made by Skoda, the car manufacturers. Originally wheeled, because you can see the axle stubs and threaded nut holes, but it's been built into the walls. So presumably the Albanians were still using it as a legitimate form of defence up until the First World War or so, maybe later. There's a Byzantine church just behind us, in the shadow of this wonderful old building which is crumbling away. But the door's locked, and we went to another Byzantine church not far away up the hill, and it too was also locked. They're both monuments, so there's no reason why they shouldn't be open, but sadly they're not. So I just found this on the way down, a carved Ottoman stone entrance, which has flowers and various scrolls and things decorated on it. And then there are 2 seats either side, which are described as being for contemplation. So presumably the person who owned this large house with these enormous doors and the arch put them there so fellow members of their town could rest and sit in the shadow. Yes, it's wonderfully cool, yeah. Wonderfully cool little place. Now I nearly walked past this mosque because it's one of several wonderful Ottoman mosques in the town, and then I suddenly realised that 10 years ago when I came, this was standing. It had walls and a roof, but it was in a terribly dilapidated state, and I walked in to look at this porticoed entrance, which is very large, and an old woman came out from one of the buildings behind, which I think had historically been a monastery attached to this mosque, and she showed me inside for a small amount of money, very, very small amount of money, and she told me that when the Hodja regime banned religion, this porticoed area, which was open when I came, it didn't have the wooden slats, had been turned into an indoor table tennis arena for the youth of Berat, and she was collecting the money so they could restore the mosque and the surrounding buildings, which they seem to have done spectacularly well. It was nothing like this when I came 10 years ago. Everything's been redone, and I'm assuming over there those were each small cells for various Bektashi dervishes and things, and then that was presumably the headquarters. Let's see if we can see inside the mosque. I can't believe it. The resurrection of this place is incredible. And the money she charged me was a tiny amount. I can't remember how much it was, like 30p. And I remember thinking, it's going to take you a very long time to restore the mosque. Getting the money from the odd tourist at 30 pence a time. Anyway, shoes off, out of respect, of course, and onto the carpet. There are flip-flops here. I don't know if you meant to use them. I'm afraid my Muslim manners are not that good. So there's a guy coming, I think. 1 second. Right, the restoration inside is superb. The gentleman who came out to tell me said that they'd done it in 5 years. So it is absolutely beautiful. This was just a shell, an empty shell when I came. The mihrab's all been done, the walls are beautiful. I'm not sure what the two mosque representations either side of the mihrab are. I'm afraid my knowledge of Islam isn't sufficient to tell you. And then the leader of the prayers would go up there, and a very nice man said we can go up onto the balcony where the ladies pray and have a look at that. And then when we're done, he will show us the tekke, the monastery where the Bektashi would have lived and prayed, and may well still do to this day for all I know. An ancient staircase, and very narrow. And very steep, yes. You have to be careful going back down. So this is the women's prayer area. As the gentleman said when Elizabeth was unsure about coming in, because we didn't want to upset anyone, he said Albania is very liberal. There is no problem with women coming into the mosques. Albanian women only pray once a day anyway, he said. Bektashi ones, presumably. And everyone is very open and, like him, very, very welcoming. So I can only hope that the old lady I saw, who was very old, lived to see it done. Because, as I say, she told me everything about it as best she could in Italian, as that gentleman spoke Italian. And I hope she saw it restored and back in use after her hard work collecting money for it. Gold?
Yes,
Yeah?
14 karat.
Yeah, 14 karat gold. Wow.
Maar ik kon er helemaal zeker om een afstijgen.
Oh yes, behind here. Yes, yes.
One time finish the spray metal, per water, come one woman and said to the little dance. Sex Sufi dance.
Sufi dance. Dervish. Yeah. We were in Konya.
Konya, Turkey.
Mevlevi. Upstairs now. Closer to the ceiling, which is painted, it's decorated with gold leaf. There's wonderful decorations around the top. And the little holes in the wall, I don't know if I've caught the man saying it, are there for acoustics, to stop it echoing. And it seems to work because it doesn't echo much at all. And then behind those screens, women could visit the tekke, and then they could come down then through the door to meet the whichever dervish was whatever they were going to meet. So these are offices now, apparently. It's hard to work out what they were originally, but I suspect they were some sort of monastic cell or maybe an office complex, I don't know. But I'm so happy that I've seen this place restored to its proper condition. Absolutely wonderful. Sorry?
Interesting that the church and the mosque are so close together.
Yes, that's a very good point actually. The churches and mosques regularly were next to each other in the more tolerant Balkan states. So this hillside is typical of old Berat, the town of 1,000 windows, because everything's built into the hill with the windows of the house pointing out. And the hills in each direction have got places like this. This is the older style, which is sort of late Ottoman, I would say. And it was sufficiently beautiful that Enver Hoxha decided that he would save Berat and not destroy it and cover it in concrete like he did with most of the rest of the country. Like Tirana, for instance, where all the old stuff has basically disappeared. So it's a lovely old town, it really is. Well worth a visit if you manage to get here. And now, on the left, in this rather run-down looking building, is the gallery for Edward Lear. And Edward Lear wrote nonsense poetry in the late 19th century, very famous English poet. And he wandered through Albania, where it's still part of the Ottoman Empire, and did watercolours as he travelled. So I'm hoping that either some of his watercolours or copies of his watercolours of his time in Albania will be inside his gallery, so we're going to go and have a look. Well, disappointingly, it's shut, and looking through the door, which you won't be able to see, I'm sure, the walls are empty. There are two of Lear's watercolours against the back wall over there, which you just make out behind what would be the desk, but sadly, it's shut. This is the campus stop in Berat. It's quite early yet, so I'm keeping my voice down a little bit. Very shady. Each spot has got its own little canopy, which has been an absolute boon because it was 90 degrees at lunchtime yesterday. Very basic campus spot really, but very nice. Behind the van, electric of course, water, is a very shady little garden to hang out in. Toilets and showers, there's a kitchen, a large fridge freezer, there's a drinks cabinet with cold drinks. It's all done on an honesty basis. You just tell them when you leave how much you've had. Everything you need basically. And the town, well, there's a river just over here where that car's just going now. There's a river on the other side there, which is a river that runs through town. And town is about a 16-minute walk along that road. So it's very conveniently situated as well. 15 euros a night. So we really like it, and the people who run it, as usual in Albania, are really friendly, really helpful. They'll do anything to try and sort out any problems you might have. Great place, great people.